Peter Fury, and don't forget to subscribe to Porky's Corner, because I've been a helmet of the month and you need to listen to me. Yeah? So follow him, yeah? And get the fella some followers up, for Christ's sake. He wears his heart on his sleeves, the good man Russ. So follow Porky's Corner, he says it as it is, and you know, I appreciate the helmet of the month, Russ. No problem.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome, mate.
Just to let you know, Dave Caldwell, that these allegations are not going to go away. This is just the beginning. So I think you need to come out and do an interview. I mean, any other time we can't get you off IFL, Behind the Gloves, Seconds Out, Boxing Social, Fight Hype. We can't get you off YouTube. So you need to come out and answer these allegations. You're more than welcome to come on Porky's Corner. You can do it by Zoom. You don't have to do it in your gym. You can do it by Zoom, and I'll ask you these questions from these lads. All right? And then once you've answered them, then I'm going to play a card that I've got up my sleeve and put this to bed. All right? So come out, wherever you are. Come on. Rocky don't fancy it today in this snow, Mick. Come on. Come on. Come on! Come here! He don't fancy it, he wants to go back to the car. Look, he's trying to get in the car, bless him. Hello, you hardcores. How are you doing? Nice day for it, innit? Well, I'm on my way to Dewsbury to film Gary Sykes, former British super featherweight champion, two-time champion, I believe. Been in with all of them, only back in day, Gary. He's fought Crawler twice, beat Crawler twice. That's no mean feat, is it? Look how their lives have panned out, totally different, aren't they? So I don't know how I'm going to play it. I remember about 10, probably 11 years ago, I remember Matchroom, put a show on, Carl Johansson against Gary Sykes, and everybody said that Carl Johansson were just going to run over him because he was a massive puncher, and got the win against him. So I think so, probably, I hope I got that wrong. I think he did beat Carl Johansson. Strikes me as crazy early in his career. His first loss with Gary Buckland. I mean, Sykes shouldn't have been losing to Gary Buckland. I mean, no disrespect, but shouldn't have been losing to people like that. Nice day for it, innit? We're up early this morning. Freezing my nuts off with Rocky this morning. He didn't fancy it. But getting back to boxing, I'm looking forward to this today. I think I've got all lighting wrong in here now, haven't I? So better. Do I look good? I've actually got a funny Gary Sykes story to tell, actually. It's going back a long time ago, probably 10 years, maybe more. I think he might have been British champion at the time. I was in a club over in Leeds, and my mate says Gary Sykes over there. He was there with straight blonde hair, all women round him, British champion with an high world ranking, all that carry on. giving it the big one. That's what it's all about, isn't it, I suppose, when you're the champ. But don't you do that when you retire? I don't know, but maybe I should have gone over and said hello. Might have been able to talk about it today now. Instead, all I can say is that I saw him in the club. But maybe we were on downslide then, I don't know, but we're going to find out today, aren't we? Like Gary Sykes' story, it's an interview I've been interested in for a while. And his trainer, Julian McGowan, sorted it for me. He's gone and picked him up this morning, so they're at Julian's gaff now waiting for me. So it's all good, isn't it? Leo, if you're watching from Jersey, strength and nutrition guy, what do I need to be eating to get some weight on? So I'm really struggling lately. I'm struggling to get some weight on. So it's not good. Not good. It's not good, but alright then guys, well we'll continue this when I get to Dewsbury. Alright. Okay. Peace out. Well, we're here at Julian's gaff in West Yorkshire, and we're joined by former two-time British super featherweight champion Gary Sykes. How are you doing, Gary?
I'm doing alright.
You alright, mate?
Yeah.
I don't really know where to start. So, how did you first get into boxing, Gary?
My next door neighbour, I was knocking about with him. I was 15 years old, pretty late. And he decided he was going to a boxing gym one night, so I just went along with him. And he quit a few months later and I carried on. Got the bug.
How did you meet up with Julian?
Down the gym.
Down at the gym, that same gym that you joined?
Yeah.
Keith Sykes, wasn't it?
Because you went on to win an ABA title, didn't you? At what weight were it?
Featherweight.
Featherweight. And who did you fight in final for that?
Michael Robinson from Liverpool.
Michael Robinson. What were it points or knockout?
Yeah, points.
Points.
Wide victory.
I bet everybody wanted to sign you then, didn't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, I could imagine. And how long? What year was that? About 05, 06?
No, 06, yeah.
06, because you were a 10-year pro, weren't you?
Yeah.
And did you like all the training and all that with boxing and that, getting up in the morning and that?
Yeah, I love the structure.
You love the structure. Did you ever miss a run?
No.
You used to do your run every day?
Yeah, I'm a really strong runner.
Where did you go for your run?
Just all over.
All over the place. Did you have a set time that you ran?
Went to the track, when I was pro, went to the track in the morning, didn't we?
We used to go to Spenbury racing track, Russell, and he used to do 800 metres with a minute rest. He'd do that 8 times.
10 times.
10 times, that's when you were fit. So, but the thing is, he'd never drop out 10 seconds or 15 seconds outside of his first time. So any pros out there will think they're fit. I mean, you were known for your fitness, weren't you? That's 800 metres times 10 with a minute rest, never dropping his time. And I always said this at the time, that I think Gary could have probably been a world-class middle distance runner. His times were just unbelievable. I've never seen anybody run like Sykes did.
Yeah, you were always in shape, weren't you?
Yeah.
What were the best sparring you had then, coming through amateurs and that? What best guy you sparred?
We used to have some real tough spars with Terry Flanagan.
Terry Flanagan,
They
yeah?
used to be real tough.
Yeah? Did you have a split decision loss to him in pros?
Yeah. Prizefighter final.
Were you a good fighter, Terry? You rated him?
Yeah.
We saw the development with Terry, didn't we, and his trainer Steve Mailer, because Terry's coach is one of my best mates in boxing, and we saw him getting from a skinny, going about all these other coaches. He took Terry from being a skinny super bantamweight all the way through to being a solid lightweight, and the development, the sparring got that hard with Sykes and Flanagan. Me and Steve Mailer had an agreement. They might spar about 30-40 times.
Yeah.
We used to go over to Manchester, they'd come over to us, and we had an agreement towards the end. We said we're going to just stop sparring them. It was that hard and it was that competitive. We just said it's probably going to cost them later on, so we actually stopped them sparring. But you would have, Russell, you'd have paid to see that sparring. It was unbelievable sparring. Yeah.
I used to have some good sparring on my account when I was boxing for England in amateurs.
He was fast, wasn't he?
Yeah, rapid.
Rapid. Yeah. Yeah. He's done well for himself, hasn't he? I mean, did you get on alright with him?
Yeah.
Nice kid, yeah.
Yeah.
When you turned pro and that, who did you turn pro with as promoter and manager?
Rick Manners to start with.
Who?
Rick Manners.
Yeah, Rick Manners, Nick's brother, yeah?
Yeah, for 1 year I was with him on a...
Yeah, you were, I think you had 14 months with, it was when the board could have joint managers. So Trevor Schofield and Rick Manners were your co-managers. And I probably started working with you after about 4 or 5 months, didn't I? And then that contract expired, and as you said, we got to a stage then, Russell, where people used to go through me to sort his contract out, but a lot of people wanted to sign Sykes because they all knew him, they all knew he was quality. And I think one of those lesser known facts was that Gary, when he was open class during his amateur career, he went 35-0, didn't you?
Yeah.
Across 3 or 4 seasons. I mean, it's unheard of at open class level to go 35-0 in amateurs. It just doesn't happen. And you had a lot of bad luck as well, didn't you? So you were defending your ABA title and you broke your hand in the semis.
Yeah.
So you couldn't
Commonwealth Games.
You couldn't go to Commonwealth Games because you got injured and Stephen Smith went and stuff. So you were in good company. And internationally, how many fights did you have?
About 12.
12 international fights, and you won 8 of those, didn't you?
Small, yeah.
And you boxed.
Olympic qualifiers.
Olympic qualifiers. You beat the American champion, didn't you?
Yeah.
Who went on to be a good kid. So you beat the American. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. You beat John Murray. You beat John Murray twice in amateurs as well, didn't you?
Yeah.
You beat John Murray now, so that's
Yeah,
good winners, weren't they?
Twice. Both come back.
Pardon?
Being twice, both come back.
Yeah.
Yeah. Both fights were 9-9, believe it or not.
Really?
And I think you always fight. Correct me if I'm wrong, Gaz, but Gary's always been really honest about stuff, and you always thought that he won one and you won one, didn't you?
Yeah, I thought I lost first.
Gary's quite open about that, but yeah, when we ever get 2 fighters who box each other twice, and both fights are 9-9 count back. You know, when the points go.
There was no in then between them, other.
Nothing at all.
Yeah. And he went on to do well, didn't he, John Murray? Didn't he?
He was a handful, wasn't he? He was a grew into lightweight, did Murray, didn't he? And you beat a Cash Batir as well, didn't you? And a Cash Batir was a good fighter. But you beat some good kids.
Tell me about Gary Buckland, because he was your first loss, wasn't he? And you were a massive favourite in that fight, weren't you?
Yeah.
What went wrong there?
We were Prizefighter, there were no fights on the horizon, and we got offered it. We decided to go in on 3-week notice.
Oh.
So I had to train from 3 weeks to get fit, and I wasn't ready for it, I don't think, and my punch resistance went up because they hadn't much sparring, so I just got knocked out.
Yeah, I was shocked about that. Actually, I didn't know that you only had 3 weeks to prepare for that, but everybody was shocked when you lost that, weren't they?
Yeah.
It's one of those, Russell, we've talked about this before, but people don't understand that. Had Gary been a huge ticket seller and been from Leeds or Manchester, we would have never done Prizefighter.
Yeah.
But he'd got nothing, had you? He'd given up work full time, he'd got no money coming in, he'd got a little girl at home, Christmas were coming up, Maloney had no dates, Sky had no dates for us, they were turning down the fights that we did suggest to them, and Board of Control didn't mandate anybody at that time, and you got no money, you got to eat, and it was just a situation where Chris Aston offered us it, didn't he, and we were toing and froing. We've been ticking over in gym, but we were toing and froing, and we just said, there's nothing coming up for 8 months, was there? 8 or 9 months, there was no dates or anything, and we rolled the dice, and it proved to be not a great decision, unfortunately. Yeah.
After Prizefighter, obviously you were on comeback trail and that, you went on a good run then, didn't you?
Yeah.
You ended up doing really well. I mean, looking at your record on that, some of the wins you've got, you beat Anthony Crolla twice, haven't you?
Yeah.
Billy Luke Campbell, and you beat Carl Johansson, who were a massive puncher, and he was down to beat you, wasn't he? With 30, and he's about 34, 35 fights, and he 30 wins.
He was a beast, wasn't he?
He was a massive. Did he beat Alex Arthur and Ricky Burns?
He beat Burns.
Did he beat Alex Arthur?
I don't think he beat Alex Arthur.
No, did he lose against Arthur? Didn't he fight him?
I don't think he fought.
He didn't fight him. No, but he fought Ricky Burns, didn't he? Yeah, that's the one.
And he gave Kevin Mitchell absolute hell, didn't he? Him and Kevin Mitchell had a
Kevin Mitchell, that was
unbelievable
war, didn't they?
And you know, we knew Carl really well. So Rick Manners used to manage Carl, didn't he? So he kind of signed with the Johansson stable.
Yeah.
And we knew Carl, and obviously he's had various coaches. But later in his career, he was trained by Martin Williams, and I know Martin Williams really well. And the thing is after we boxed him, Russell, after Gary beat Carl, we all became friends, didn't we? We were kind of friends anyway. And then they used to use our gym. They used to come over and use at Central Boxing Club, which is at Dickie's gym. And can you remember those sparring? We used to have, so imagine you got Tommy Cole used to come over before and after Gary boxed him with Prizefighter. Flanagan had come over, Carl Place, Carl Johansson, Josh Warrington and Sykes, you know, and you had all those guys in the mix.
In that all that era, I mean, when I look back at all fights now, Burns, Arthur, Gary Sykes, Johansson, Michael Gomez, you know, that era, you know, that 10 years ago, maybe around about 08 up to 2014 or something, like 16. Well, a great era, wasn't it?
Really
For
competitive.
super feather lightweight, you know, around about that.
Brilliant fights as well. And they used to be on Friday, didn't they? Sky Sports would have the shows on a Friday night.
Friday night.
Smaller arenas, they weren't the big shows that they are.
I remember Frotch fighting Robin Reed on a Friday.
Yeah, they were just
on Sky.
Fantastic, and they were just like a scene at that time, you know, like everybody knew everybody, and there were, I'm not saying there were no politics back then, there clearly were politics, but there was certainly less, and that's one of the reasons we have to turn this into something else. But I always get frustrated because you would box anybody, wouldn't you? Yeah. And not for great money. And when I hear the likes of Dillian White, now he's still complaining at $10,000, $10 million, and I want this and I want that. And then I look at Gary and what Gary used to earn, twice the fighter Dillian White was, you know, twice the talent and twice the pedigree. It just, you can't help but, bitter's the wrong word, but you can't help but be frustrated at what boxing is now. And then you have someone like Gary who would just a warrior and stepped up every single time.
Yeah, it's the sport's changed, hasn't it, Julian, now?
The landscape of the sport is, I think it's like they always talk about the rich and the poor divide. It's almost become like rich and poor divide in boxing, whereas, you know, we talk about the demise of boxing, but at the highest level, fighters are getting paid more than they've ever been paid, and they are generating a lot of money. But it's that drop down, isn't it, to that grassroots level of boxing now. That's completely on its arse, it's completely died. And when I see some of the purses that's going around right now, and I hear of all this stuff, and then you get fighters who, you know, they're telling the matchmakers and telling the managers, and they've got these people around them saying who they will fight, who they won't fight. It's bizarre, isn't it? I just remember I'd say to Gary, I'd say, right, we've got so-and-so 6 week, we've been offered, I don't know, we've been offered this fight or that fight, and Gary would just say, you only ever asked one question, didn't you? Gary only ever wanted enough notice to get in shape. Yeah. Never asked who or how much or anything like that. Never turned anything down. You would just say, have we got enough time, Jules? And that was always your question, wasn't it? Yeah. Have we got enough time, Jules? And you imagine saying to somebody, do you want to fight Adrian Broner? We're not talking millions of pounds here, we're talking $65,000 US, so about 40 grand before taxes and before stoppages. You'd have taken home, with the American taxation system, you'd have taken home about 25 grand for fighting Adrian Broner. I mean, it's a joke, really, but do you want to fight Adrian Broner, Gary? Once you realise it wasn't a joke, Gary's like, yeah, no problem. I'd love to. And that mentality. And then, you know, as a diehards, and we watch what's going on with boxing now, you just think, it's just a joke, isn't it? So fighters are no longer, they don't have that integrity that they used to have. I don't believe so anyway. You never turned anyone down, did you?
No.
Yeah, I think it's a shame. What are you doing with yourself now, Gary?
An hour moment.
No, Yeah. Right. You know when you were British champion, they had a reception for you, didn't they?
Civic reception.
Civic reception in town, is it?
Yeah.
It's that was nice, wasn't it?
Yeah, we were good.
It was fabulous, but the thing is, and Gary don't mind me talking for you sometimes, Dewsbury's a small town and it's not known for great things. It's always had bad publicity, and it's only known for, like, you know, high levels of domestic violence and drug problems and terrorism. Got massive terrorism problems in Dewsbury.
Terrorism, man.
Well, the mastermind of the 7/7 bombings in London actually was from the Dewsbury area. There's raids all the time for Al Qaeda and terrorists in this area. That's a fact, by the way, and it's known for all of those things. And with Gary, they had something that was like a brilliant thing, and you literally was a star, wasn't you, in Dewsbury? Gary was the most well-known athlete in the town, and it was great that the town was known for something really, really special and good. And even I found it a little bit bizarre when I started training with Gary, you know, an ABA champion. He was well known, but not to the level he became. And then we got to a stage, didn't we, where you go to restaurants, wouldn't you, and wherever, and you didn't have to pay anywhere, and you were just treated like God. You were in the paper every single week. You switched on the Christmas lights at Dewsbury, remember? Yeah. Okay, people might laugh about stuff like that, but when it's your hometown, and you love your hometown,
well.
yeah, you met the Prime Minister, you met Gordon Brown, 2 civic receptions, Russell, which the mayor was there, and we just, like, the town hall was opened up just for you. It was really.
Where are these people now helping you?
Where are they, Gary? Yeah. Where are they? Where's the border control? Where are all these people? And
well, they all want to be seen with the champ, don't they?
yeah.
And then when the champ isn't the champ, these people move on. I call them leechers and poncers and woodpeckers. There's a lot of woodpeckers in boxing. Peck, 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 pecking away at you. That's what they do.
And unfortunately, that's been your experience, hasn't it? That's. I mean, Gary and I have always stayed in touch. We don't dress over things. We don't gloss over things. We had a couple of little fallouts, haven't we?
Yeah.
Sometimes you can be too close to somebody and spend too much time with somebody. We don't.
You're very regimented though, Julian, aren't you? In everything you do, I can see.
Can
like,
you tell? Look at my house, yeah.
Yeah, you know, everything's in its place, isn't it, in England. And when I'm on my way here, and I said, it's because you live in this nice Yorkshire stone house, and this is a new street you live on. It's not on sat nav. And you're sending me different postcodes out together, and that you're proper organised, aren't you?
I can't help it. It's just.
It's OCD, innit? You've got.
I've definitely got mild OCD. You know, my house is pretty clean out, I'll be honest. And when me and Gary got really close, we were like chalk and cheese, weren't we? So I'm trying to help Gaz, and Gaz, well, you're pretty disorganised in some ways, and I think I'd like to think in some ways we rubbed off on each other, because I could be a little bit too strict and a little bit OCD, and Gary's laid back and he's chilled out and not as regimented. So it rubs off on each other, because it's not always a good way to be like I am. And it's not always a good way to be completely disorganised, but I think what I'm always the most proud of, and I never talk about the trainer, by the way, it's Gary did, doesn't matter what I was like as a coach, without the fighter you're nothing whatsoever. Boxing's about the boxers ultimately, but what I'm always most proud of is the fact that from a real tough town, no sponsors, no support, both work full time. And a good example, and Ant Kroll's a good kid, isn't he? We've known Ant years. He's a really lovely kid, brilliant, dedicated fighter. But Gary was always a way better fighter than Ant Kroll, and he ultimately proved it, didn't he? By he beat him twice.
He's a lovely kid, though, isn't he, Kroll?
Beautiful kid. I think he'd be a great coach, by the way. I think
I've seen him
such a balanced kid, and I think he'd be a great coach. But when Gary boxed Anthony Croller in 2009, you forget, don't you? 2009 for final eliminator. For British super featherweight champion. Me and Gary were working full time. Effectively our gym, we worked a bit with Chris Aston, but effectively our gym was a kit bag with some pads and some bits and bobs. We were gym nomads, weren't we? Yeah. So we were working, travelling the gyms, we'd go to other gyms for sparring. Croller was a full-time pro, he got massive sponsorships, he'd get holidays in Thailand and all this team around him. It was with Arnie Farnell, another good guy, but they'd got this massive network, and they were with Frank Warren and all this kind of stuff, and they were just us, weren't they? Just gym nomads, just travelling around, and that makes victories like what Gary had that night. It makes it so much sweeter when you're not supposed to win, when you're the underdog and you don't have all this backing and all this support. And you and Crawley had the first fight was a brilliant fight, wasn't it?
Yeah.
How much, difference do you think there is, Julian, back then to now, from being a British champion to a world champion? Do you think the margins are that fine?
I think the whole thing with the British title. So when we got together, I remember the conversations we had when Gary turned pro. He had his first fight without me, and then he asked me if I'd work with him. And we had a conversation. He said, "Will you train me?" Initially, I said no. Life's too busy. We sat down, we had a little chat, and I started working with him. And you remember those conversations, Gary, where he says, what's the goal? Where do you want to go with this one? And we both said, and Gary said, the British title. Yeah? Remember, Gaz?
Yeah.
The British title, outright. That's the goal. So that shows how highly regarded the Lonsdale belt was in the British title.
People went for it back in then. I don't like to harp back on about this, but Brian Rose won one, didn't he, outright? Yeah. Carl Froch won one outright. They were practising the craft before they went to world level, weren't they? Yeah, and that's what I never understand with the Conor Benns of this world. I don't understand it, because if you're knocking over some Mexican road sweeper or some part-time broadcaster who's been on the couch for 2 years, why don't you clean up domestically, get your belt outright? Because guess what, Conor Benn, when you've spent 5-10 million or whatever it is you spend, and you've got all your interim belts and all these belts you'll win, all of those things, you're not going to have a British title outright. You're not going to have that belt. Yeah. We're talking 4 fights, Use them as learning fights. If you are world class and you are a level above the McKinsons and the Congos and all that, just do what Lewis Ritson did and just steamroll them, get your belt outright. But to your question now that, I hear you talk about this on your show, and I hear other people talk about world champions, and I very rarely refer to them as world champions. I always refer to them as organisational champions. And for me, a world champion, okay, with a bit of a drugs issue, but Canelo Alvarez is the world champion, isn't he? I don't care what belts he's got, it's irrelevant. Josh Taylor's the world champion, just so happens to have all the belts. Tyson Fury is the world champion, but he doesn't have the majority of the belts. But Tyson Fury ultimately is the world champion. So I like to think of a world champion who's someone who's undoubtedly proven to be the best in the world. Whereas winning some of these belts, I don't like to dig people out, but if you think of, was it Rocky Fielding when he won his super middleweight belt? And I'm not denigrating Rocky Fielding, by the way, but those are not world titles, are they? No, because he fought that Zuga, didn't he, who beat Paul Smith?
Yeah.
And then he's known as a world champion, and then they've just fed him to Canelo, didn't they? For $1 million.
Canelo bought the belt effectively, didn't he? And
well, they gave Canelo a massive purse for that fight, and they gave Rocky Fielding $1 million, and he'd never had anything more than 100 grand. So
it's fantastic for Fielding, isn't it?
Fielding, obviously Canelo did 30 odd million. Mm-hmm. The secret when you're getting Canelo then paydays is to pay the opponent nothing. And that's what they did with him. But Rocky Fielding will be known now as a former world champion.
Former world champion, that's
who fought Canelo.
And I know there are world champions out there. I'm sat next to somebody. I'm not biased. We're always level-headed, weren't we? Like when you were fighting Barona, we knew that was a hard job, didn't we?
Yeah.
We knew he was a big underdog, and we knew what could have likely happened had he fought Barona. We weren't people who were, had ideas above our station. Gary was a world-class fighter. He was world ranked by the WBO, but you'll never hear him turn around and say it was Lomachenko. But I know that there are fighters out there who have versions of world titles who haven't got half the talent that this kid have, or couldn't have beat Sykes, and that's not ripping people to pieces. They've taken their opportunity. They've played the system. Good luck to them. But there's some really good kids out there, really good fighters out there who don't get the credit, and this is one of them. I mean, I saw Gary spar sometimes. I mean, remember you sparred Ricky Burns? Yeah. Ricky Burns was at that time he was rampant, wasn't he? He was
running through everybody.
He was rampant. He was lightweight champion of the world, and I was on holiday in Tenerife, and I got a phone call from Billy Nelson. Billy Nelson says, "Is Sykes available for sparring?" Remember, and he hadn't even been in the gym, had you? Sykes had been in the gym, and Burns was right at the end of his camp, and they asked you to come over for the last 3 sparring sessions. So Sykes had been in the gym for a week. I says, "I'm in Tenerife, I can't do anything. Do you want the sparring, Gary?" Because money. It was can't remember what they paid. It was decent cash, wasn't it?
300 quid.
300 quid a spar, wasn't it? So 300 quid a day.
No, 300 quid for 3 spars.
Is that what it was? So 300 quid. I says, so Gary basically, what we do, probably did what you always did. Went running for a week, hit a bag for a week, and then he sparred Ricky Burns, and he gave Burns, and Burns said, because that's the best sparring I've had for absolutely ages.
And he's a pretty honest kid, Ricky Burns.
Burns is a lovely guy. He was really nice, wasn't he? He was really friendly. Billy Nelson, I thought Billy Nelson was fab, and Sykes was in that company at that time, but it's getting the breaks, isn't it? You didn't get the breaks, kid, did you?
Tell me about Luke Campbell fight, Gary.
I think I passed it then.
Were you?
Yeah. Because you'd retired, didn't you?
Yeah, I'd retired. I didn't like that fight, but I also...
Well, did you do the corner?
No, I said I wasn't doing it. That's why Gary and I, we had a couple of frosty years, didn't we? We'd 2 years away from each other, but we're good. There's a lot of love there. And Gary did the Luke Campbell fight. He was with Sean then at the time, and Nicky. And those guys did a good job. They got him in shape, but I think they knew as well that Gary was past it. But I understood why Gary did that fight, because you got a good payday, didn't you?
Yeah.
You had a little girl, was Dolly born then at the time?
Yeah.
So he had a little baby who'd come, and he got offered a good fight, and I just said, I can't do this, Gary. It's a tough fight for you. And Campbell was huge, wasn't he? You remember we sparred him. You sparred Campbell twice, and I've got a photograph of you and Luke Campbell somewhere on my phone, and it was massive. And Gary moved up to lightweight, and Campbell was a massive lightweight. And I just said, it's not a good fight for you, Gary. You'd be taking it for the money, but Campbell was quality anyway, wasn't he? To be fair, you have to be realistic and say that Campbell was absolute quality. And Campbell's another example of what we just talked about. Somebody who never won a world title, and he's way better than 70% of the
He's only got a Commonwealth title to his name, hasn't he?
You just can't get your head around it, can you?
He's a multi-millionaire, lives in one of the biggest houses in Ulneck, in Essel.
Well, at least he's made his money, which is really a good thing.
At least he's made a few quid out of that job, yeah, but it just seems, for me, it's glass seems half full with Campbell. Olympic gold medalist, and he got a Commonwealth. He didn't do as good as Audley Harrison. At least he won a European, didn't he?
Yeah, he's definitely an underachiever, isn't he?
Massive underachiever.
Where professional boxing's
And
concerned.
Tommy Coyle, he's only got a Commonwealth. I think he's an underachiever as well.
Yeah, we know Tommy well, don't we?
Yeah.
Tommy used to come to our gym all
Did
the
you used to have
time.
some good spars with Tommy?
Yeah.
The character, wasn't he? Tommy was an emotional character. And if you're watching this, Tommy, I hope you're well. He used to come over to our gym, 20, 30 times. They'd have some good spars, or he'd spar with other people.
Oh, boom, boom.
Yeah, Tommy he wore his heart on his sleeve, and he won't mind me saying so, but when you were fit, Tommy never got the best of Gary really in sparring. But he used to like sparring Gary because he would learn off him, and he would soak things up. But he was a proper emotional kid, was Tommy. You know, he's all over the place, but really nice lad, nice friendly lad. And his trainer at the time, Stephen Smith, just another good guy, just one of those guys, just unassuming, you know, just Stephen's another one of these coaches who don't shout his mouth off and tell you he's the best, just an unassuming guy who did a good job early doors with Tommy. Didn't get a lot of credit for it.
Yeah. What's the plan of action for you as regards boxing, Gary? Do you watch it, or do you want to be involved with it, or have you just washed your hands of it?
Yeah, well, watch it, but I haven't been out to gym for a while, so I'm gonna start in this new year. I'm gonna start going down, dipping my toes back in it.
Good man. What do you think to people like Jake Paul and Logan Paul?
Oh, I just think it's pathetic.
Yeah.
Everyone's boxing down.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you got Jake Paul and Canelo decapitate him.
Yeah.
Yeah. I bet you'd fancy your chances against Jake Paul, wouldn't you?
Yeah, definitely.
Sorry, go on.
Go on, I'd just say, it don't offend me, Russell, because what I always do is, I don't think of it as boxing. I just think of it as just entertainment, and take it for what it is. It's not professional boxing, it's not even white collar to some extent. These guys can make a load of money, that's fine. But if people believe that they would beat an average central area level professional boxer, they don't know boxing at all, do they? But
What do you think to promoters giving these people airtime? Aaron, Hearn, Warren, people like that, DeBella?
Personally, from a personal point of view, I wouldn't do it, but promoters and these guys are whores, aren't they? They really don't care. I mean, if you can put Billy Joe Saunders, like Eddie did, on the undercard of a white collar fight, that just shows how low you regard that fighter and how low you regard professional boxers. But I personally couldn't do it because you're denigrating the sport of boxing and you're losing the purity. But I think the sport of boxing was damaged a long time ago. I wouldn't do it. That's me personally, but they'll do anything for cash, won't they? These guys would do absolutely anything for cash, you know, anything whatsoever. They're shameless. And that's probably why they live in mansions and we don't.
John Fury. Mickey Theo here.
I'm not going to refer to your name because your name ain't worth mentioning, mate. Or you watch the image of a pig. Let's get it straight.
It looks like you don't want to fight.
I'm not going to make a spectacle out of myself in the ring. An old man with a pair of boxing trunks on, what's long past his best.
I thought about it. You know what, John? I'm challenging you to a bare knuckle fight. Yeah? In the ring properly, not in the backyard, in the ring. So, come back to me, John.
You're having it. Bare knuckle, all in, no old bad. Now what I want you to do, there's no waiting around. I want you to go today. Shut mallet, pig. Are you listening to me, pig?
You don't want to do it in the box, you know, you don't want to do it with gloves on. You want to do it your style. Yeah? Bare knuckles. You know what? I'll do it bare knuckles for you, mate.
There might be a little bit of fame for you, 2 minutes till I plaster you, but let me tell you something, mate, there's no money in this for you. And I know you haven't got £10, so I'm going to box you for free. Not box you, fight you for free.
Because that's the only way you want to fight, we'll do it. Okay? In the ring, Queensbury rules, but bare knuckles, mate, some of that. Yeah? I'm up for it, John.
But what I want to do is do you some serious damage. Are you hearing me, you pig? So get plenty of steroids and juice down you, mate, because I will fight you tomorrow, today, anytime.
I'm still up for it, mate. I'm training. I'm training every day, yeah? And I'm looking forward to it. So the quicker you get your skates on, tell the fans you want this fight, and away we go.
And I'm sick of you getting on, you weasel, making videos like a 14-year-old boy. You that's the image of a shacked mallet pig, what's ate too much swill. You see that? I'm going to shatter your fucking jaw with it. And I don't even fucking swear, you shacked mallet ugly bastard.
When you're ready, John.
I'm a real man. I'm X-rated outside, my friend. That's what I do. No boxing matches, no gloves, because I want to inflict some serious damage on you. You'll never do it again, my friend. You push one button too far. So, here to you. Have that.
When you're ready, John.
2,000 years later.
Forget you, bum. I'm looking at fighting Mike Tyson. How's that?
When you're ready, John. Me and you, in the ring, bare knuckles, Queensbury rules. Okay? We'll have a proper man-to-man bare knuckle fight.
Here I am. John Fury is hiding from no man, not even the king of the old men. Mike Tyson. I will fight Mike Tyson. Do you hear that then? Because I will not be denied. I will die in a fight. I'm as game as an American Yankee cock. I will die before I'll give in. So let me tell you, mate, forget 2-minute rounds. I'll fight you as long as you want. But listen to this.
Oi! Oi! Will you shut up? I'm trying to watch the fucking telly.
Oops. There you go, Mr. Caldwell. Stop rubbing things out.